Hey, honey.
I'm not talking.
Where are we?
I'm not talking.
Yes, we took a lovely trip to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia in the USA. This is the Duke of Gloucester Street, which is the primary street that runs from the Capitol all the way down to William and Mary College. And many, many of these houses along the Duke of Gloucester Street have been restored. Some of them are private residences, which is fascinating, and some of them are original, and some of them are reconstructions. Some of them are business, and some of them are open for tourists. We're going to go first to the Raleigh Tavern. They are beautiful. I love their color. This is the Compton Oak. Right behind, I think, the courthouse. This very knowledgeable docent toured us around the tavern. Now, Williamsburg was the capital, and so that's where the courts were. The High Court was there, all kinds of lawyers, people coming for their cases. So this tavern was a very popular place to gather, and many important people did gather here to meet. And it was important in the development of our country and our independence, as you'll hear her say.
Fall of 1774 to take a united action. And that's what happens. They formed that Continental Congress, that first Continental Congress in the fall of 1774. What they want is reconciliation. This is not about independence. It will be about independence down the road, but at this point in time, it's about resolving our problems with the Crown. So they meet and they come up with a plan of action. Do you know what the plan of action was? Do any of you recall in your history lessons? Let me ask you, if the United States said today, we're not going to import anything else starting tomorrow, are we going to be in trouble? Absolutely. You're going to learn that you're not going to have a lot of stuff, okay? Nor can you replace things or fix things because we depend upon imported items. Do you think many women would be at the tavern? Not too many, no, not too many. Clay pipes up there on top of the mantel. What they do, you pass them around. And so as the tip of it gets sort of messy, you break it off, and then you open up a window and throw it out and comes trash. So
in the back of the Raleigh Tavern is a bake shop, and this is Adam's favorite place because they make molasses cookies there. He likes to get a molasses cookie. We walked around and saw many carriages. That's the armory there, where they kept the magazine, where they kept so many of the soldiers' weapons. And then next, we're going to go to the weaver's shop, my favorite shop. This room has the big loom and quite a few wheels.
And as busy work for the enslaved. That's pretty much it. They're not going to be self-sufficient by making their own fabric. Add twist. Twist is what we need to make a string. I don't need a spindle because I have this piece. It's like wishbone thing. It's called a flyer. As the flyer goes around and around, it's being powered by the wheel. As the flyer goes around.
Is it spicy?
It is.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I don't mind spicy.
Now, this is a school building that they are restoring. They're moving it here. They've got it protected, and it'll be done in the next few years. The smell of boxwood gardens, especially these formal ones, Reminds me of my childhood in Virginia. This is one that's just newly planted, and the next day they had put small peonies in the middle of each one of those beds. Now that building is the cabinet makers and harpsichord makers shop, and I got to play the harpsichord there, which was just lovely. And then we exited out the back and walked over this lovely little bridge. So many little alleyways and dirt paths just wind behind the homes of Williamsburg. Now the next building we're going to look at is the Peyton Randolph home. This is a very large home in Williamsburg and a very important man. This is the courtyard in the center of the home. I sat there waiting for the tour to begin. And as we look here toward the back of the property, you'll see the rooms where the enslaved people were kept. This is the very back kitchen and gathering room. Every room had a fireplace like that. Looked like there was a little sleeping here, but more sleeping upstairs on the floor. And they had a table, and I might gather there for games or music in the evenings. This is the next room going forward, and this is more like a kitchen. You can see they're doing laundry here and other household tasks for the family with a slightly larger, more working fireplace. Now this is the primary kitchen for the family where their meals would be prepared and for their guests. A very large fireplace with all kinds of hardware for putting things on spits and cooking meats there. Again, they're keeping the fire and the heat away and the smells away from the main house. There's a butter churn, all kinds of dishes and pots for cooking. The cook would have probably slept upstairs above this room. And this is the long hallway that separates the main house from the quarters in the back. And as we go into the main house, you see that suddenly the walls are paneled and they're painted and the furniture is fine. So there's a big discrepancy there. The oil paintings are covered with mosquito netting to protect them from bugs. And there were some lovely fire screens there for the ladies at night. I tried to stay behind the group so that I could get some video footage of these rooms. Now we're upstairs in some of the bedrooms, and you can see there where a slave would have been sleeping on the floor. There's a little robin's nest.
In a bedroom, we'd have nowhere to stand, right? And just so you know, while I'm finishing the story, the inventory I mentioned is over there. You're welcome to take a picture or look at it before we head out. You know who I mean when I say that, right? They're right across the street. And Lord Dunmore, our governor, who leaves in 1775, has issued a proclamation that said if you're enslaved and owned by someone like the Randolphs who are going against the king, and those 8 individuals are no different, they decide that the risk is worth it. They go across the street. The British pack up and head to Yorktown. Do y'all remember who loses that battle? We have a runaway ad, and we know that the will sells her. So it's safe to assume that at some point she is captured. They find evidence that there is similar wallpaper, and they look back at what is available, and this is what they believe is closest to what they find, and so this is what they chose to put up. So
I love the wallpaper. Now this is more of this upstairs room. This is the central room, kind of almost a big landing. Could be used as a spare bedroom if they needed to. This is the room of their niece who lived with them for 11 years, almost like a daughter. They didn't have any children of their own. It was surprising how many of these George and Martha Washington had no children of their own. Now, there's more of that wallpaper and that grand window. This is a narrow storage room in the upstairs hallway, and look at the trunks and the intricate work on them. This is Mr. and Mrs. Randolph's bedroom. I think that's probably his bed. And then the other bed is more feminine looking. With all of those swags. And then here is the stairwell again. Just beautiful. The last room here is the downstairs dining room. It's a very large room for entertaining, obviously. And that piece right there, that piece of silver with the knobby top, that was a gift from the king to Mr. Randolph. And now we'll go back outside. So here's a view, a long view of the house from the side. There were more outbuildings that we didn't go into. That's the big building that was the slaves' quarters, the house slaves. That was the long corridor, and then there is the primary house at the front. And there's a front view.
Made out of a local black walnut, which is a beautiful wood. You might have it made out of mahogany, which is imported from the Caribbean. And instead of the straight legs there, maybe it's a curved leg, maybe even something with some carving added on to it. So start making variations on this, either to make it a little simpler, a little cheaper, or to make it a little more ornate, a little showier. Yeah, we've got feet. We always think we're creative, but yeah, it's a cool idea that people have been playing with forever. The idea is that someone's got a leg, looks like a foot on the bottom, it looks like a foot. Have you ever looked at any of the furniture that came out of King Tut's scene, for example? It's got animals.
I went to the Charlton Coffeehouse, and I got the wallpaper in there as well. And this is our delightful tour guide in there. I loved her dress. It had a big bustle in the back.
We're a great place to come to get news, find out what's going on. Some coffee houses throughout the colonies and in England, of course, would subscribe to various periodicals or newspapers.
The room where they did their coffee and chocolate and tea drinking had all of these wonderful pictures up on top of the mantle for pouring chocolate. And we got to sample some of the chocolate. It was delicious. Very spicy and not real sweet. And this is that same room, a dining room, a meeting room. And now we're going to make our way to the big grassy area, the market square behind the courthouse, and listen to the Fife and Drum show.
The trooping ceremony displays the colors or regimental flags of the army. This ceremony passes the colors before the assembled troops to make them identifiable to the soldiers on the battlefield. The field music will now troop the colors. You will hear a slow march and a quick march entitled St. Patrick's Day Trooping. The quick march would later be known as St. Patrick's Day in the morning.
March. Slow. March.
friends, I hope that you enjoyed that. That was our first day in Williamsburg, and I think my next video will be our second day in Williamsburg. We did stay overnight at a campground, the Anvil campground, and it was very comfortable, and we had a cabin there. So tomorrow we will do the Capitol building, the John Wythe House, and some other things. Thanks for joining me.